would be significant savings. That savings is what we're talking about that would be used for improvements to the site or not. I think that the board would have to take into consideration asking Solid Waste of Willis to bring back maybe future detail on that, and identifying the sources of funds that they would be using to do those improvements at those sites and what those improvements would look like. If the board decided to do that option, I think that the Solid Waste Division would have to come back with a review to the franchise agreement that's currently in place, which is at least another 7 years, I'm told, and possibly looking at a lease agreement, a new lease agreement or permit agreement as well. And the board can also direct staff to do that. So that's sort of in a summary, in the nutshell, of what the cost-benefit analysis shows, and I'd be happy to answer any questions if the board has it at this point.
Any questions from board members at this point? Okay. Solid Waste to Willis, Jerry, would you folks want to... and I realize you've just received that response here.
Right.
You know.
And can I just say something? I apologize for that, but I did call and leave a message with his staff that the proposal was ready and he could pick it up, but I guess we should have curried it over, and I apologize.
Well, it wouldn't have probably made a difference of an hour or two anyway, and that's not long enough to review the whole document. But
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is Emmett Jones. I've provided business advisory services to Solid Waste of Willits for more than a number of years, and I've had the pleasure to sit on the government side of the table in protecting the ratepayer and acting on the ratepayer's interest. And I'd like to think I bring a balanced view of solid waste issues and the solutions. I just want to just state a few facts that everybody pretty much knows about, but just to put them in front of us again for a moment. There are really two parts to this problem-solving set. One is South Coast, which is kind of an island and has some different problems to overcome because of the Annapolis transfer station situation. And then there are 4 small transfer stations which don't have the long-haul questions that you might want to consider with South Coast. Our approach in bringing this to the board has been to address the general fund subsidy to the Solid Waste Division, to hold the line on user fees, and to preserve services, not just in general, but at a level that they can be sustained so that the operation will continue to pay for itself to the degree possible. So we see that privatization in this area is something that can reach those objectives. We recognize, and I know you folks recognize every day when you deal with your budget issues, that privatization is not available. In some cases, in some of your areas, there are no solutions. You know, you just have to spend the money. You can't privatize, for instance, the sheriff's department. So it seems to us that if you have an opportunity to save money, protect the ratepayer, to keep the level of service at an adequate level, you know, you need to take a hard look at that. And we appreciate the time that you've already given us and that the CEO's office and the Solid Waste Division has given us. And we think that everybody's acting responsibly and trying to take a look at whether we've got something that can help in this kind of a general fund situation. So having said that, I want to point out that these 5 sites are already privatized. The back door is privatized. Solid Waste of Willits and Waste Management, because they have access to landfills at reasonable tipping fees, and because they are in the trucking business, so to speak, and have the expertise and the shops and the associated kinds of administrative skills, every one of these 5 sites currently is being serviced by the private sector at the back door to get the garbage from the consumer to the landfill site in either Nevada or Potrero Hills. And we're only talking about privatizing the front door. And we believe that it's much more economical to integrate the front door and the back door, and that's why we feel that there are some savings. I'm just going to go to the report that we've only had really for just a few minutes, and I know that it was a late, you know, this stuff always takes longer than you'd like it to, and we recognize that, and we appreciate the efforts that the CEO's office has made. But I looked at there are 3 alternatives before you based on this report. Alternative 1 suggests raising user fees. Now, one of our objectives is to hold the line on user fees. Alternative 2 is to reduce service. One of our objectives is to not reduce service. And alternative 3 quantifies what the savings would be if it were privatized. And we're not going to stand here today and try to quibble about whether it's $65,000 or $100,000 or $200,000, because quite honestly, we haven't had enough time to look at the CEO's numbers to see if we agree or disagree. But let's just say that even the CEO agrees that there's a savings. And we're not in the business of running your side of the house and the solid waste division, and we'll leave it to you to find any savings that may exist in the solid waste division. Not out at the sites. That's our job if we can privatize. But if you can come up with further savings, then so be it, and that would be something that I'm sure you'd look at anyway. In terms of the human factor, which we understand, we know that there are people who currently work for the county who have an interest in doing what they do. And I can tell you that we haven't negotiated with the county as to how that happens, but we're here to tell you today that we would hire every county employee who would want to come to work for solid waste systems. If you folks wanted to absorb them into the county system, that would be fine. We'll go find other people. The people who work for solid waste to Willits get health benefits. There is a 401k package, and we're not going to suggest and here today go through the details, but solid waste to Willits provides pretty good employment in this county at a time when it's hard to find. And we would protect those people the same way we protect the current employees, and no one would lose their job. And in fact, some of the people who are working for the county at the moment work part-time with no benefits. And because we would add 3 buyback centers for additional recycling in 3 rural stations, we would need some of those people to move, if they would like, to full-time positions with benefits from the current county part-time positions with no benefits. So I mean, we recognize that that is an issue. People are important. They serve the public. We have a respect for that. We respect our own employees because we recognize that we can't provide our services unless the folks who work for us feel good about where they work and how they're treated. So I mean, to the extent that we can say something, we'll say that we'll hire those people. In the analyses, and it's been referred to a few times, we see that the $65,000 number that comes from alternative or option 3 is for the year 2009, 2010. And that's because approximately, as I understand it, 185,000 self-insured pay-as-you-go liability that was caused by a tragic accident at one of these sites will go away. Now, I got to ask you, how could you have a $600,000 self-insured loss on $1 million business for 5 sites? Or if you want to look at it, a $600,000 loss at a site that might generate $200,000 in gross revenue a year. So when people say, well, how can you guys do it cheaper? We don't pay anywhere near that for insurance for a business that operates in 2 counties. And we don't understand how you can expose a $600,000 loss to the, I mean, it's just beyond our understanding. Risk management is one of the key elements in preserving a business and their ability to provide services. So we'll never have a $600,000 loss. The worst case that could happen to a business like ours would be our insurance premiums might go up by $10,000 or $15,000 if a tragic event like that were to happen. So, you know, the proposal in alternative 3 says $65,000. That I guess would assume that nothing ever